What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another unlimited episode. Sorry, been having some technical difficulties. Got a nasty thunderstorm rolling through the area right now, but we should be good. I saw Ryan O'Neill's in the chat already. What's up, new family? Jay Smith, howdy. How you doing, brother? Uh, got an epic guest for you guys tonight from the Great Lakes region, Matt Linsenman. Uh, Located up in the UP of Michigan, right on the beautiful shores of Lake Superior. Going to be talking about a number of different topics, but let's get Matt in here and get this party started. Matt, how you doing, brother?
What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Welcome to the show. Glad to finally have you on. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. It's usually not this difficult. Doing these little shows, but it's all right, man. We're here, we're talking, we're all good.
Absolutely.
Well, give a little background on you and where you're from and what you do, man, and how you got into a NuCanoe and all that good stuff, man.
So I was born in Marquette. Um, Spent a lot of time downstate. Pretty much grew up downstate, southern Michigan, lower peninsula, with hanging out with all the trolls.
Yeah.
Um, Joined the military. Got into kayak fishing right after I got out of the military. It's kind of a release. I heard somebody say that for a lot of, especially war veterans, it's such a great therapy to be out on the water. And, it's, you battle against yourself, against the elements. So I got into a NuCanoe probably 3 years ago now through a mutual friend, and also was stationed with them, Terrell Hester, down in Texas. They're also part of the NuCanoe family. And I've been kind of tracking him. And I'm like, I have to get out of these sun dolphins.
Yeah.
They're killing my back. So he hooked me up and made some phone calls, and we got on with NuCanoe. Just got out of the team this last year. It was funny. A lot of the people thought I was already on the team.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. But so here I am.
Very cool. Well, you mentioned your military background first and foremost. Thank you for your service. But a good friend of both of ours, Mr. Dan Perry, told me I need to ask you how many ammo bowls you drank in Korea. And my response to him was, "What the heck is an ammo bowl?"
Well, Daniel and Brian, if I could tell you how many ammo bowls I had, I wasn't drinking ammo bowls. So, so an ammo bowl comes out in a big goblet, almost a fish bowl, and it's filled with juice and the elixir of everything on the Korean peninsula, soju. So you usually drink yourself invisible when you're drinking ammo bowls. So
Those are like the big cocktails you see on the movies and stuff. Because I didn't understand what he was talking about. He's like, "Just ask.
yeah,
It'll be good."
yep, absolutely.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Well, you grew up in Marquette, you said, right?
I was born there. I did a lot of my growing up in southern Michigan.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so I spent a lot of time down there, and after the service I moved back up here, and I've been back up here for about 6 years now.
So for those that like may not know, what's the big draw to the Upper Peninsula? That's what we're talking about when we talk about the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I'll let you describe it since you're the resident, man. It's just God's country to me.
It really is. I've been all over the world, and there's only one other place to me that can compare to it, and that's Alaska.
Okay.
Um, so it's a lot of land, a lot of water, and very few people live here. Um, just the views and the rock cliffs on the Lake Superior shoreline. It's absolutely breathtaking. You can go out for a ride 2 minutes, 1 minute out of town, and you won't see another soul. You're out on two tracks or fire roads, going back to public lakes with a tiny dirt public launch and just killing it, man. It's so amazing up here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially where you're at in Munising, because that's where the big national park is, Pictured Rocks, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. See,
Yep. You've
nuts.
been doing some homework, Brian.
No, I'm in love with the UP, man. I've spent a lot of free time up there in my 20s, let's say. That's why I
Okay.
was curious about Marquette. Like we talked about, I had a good friend of mine that lived up there, and I would occasionally make trips up there on the weekend for all the college parties. So we'll leave it at that.
Yep. There's some great places to fish over there too. You got Dead River Basin is amazing smallmouth factory, obviously connected to the Dead River, which runs through Marquette. It's a
Sure.
popular spot for the college kids and any outdoors enthusiast. Just a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. I'm gonna pull up a photo here real quick of Pictured Rocks. I know that's a big destination for a lot of wreck kayakers and things like
Mhm.
that, man. Just because you got all these little caves and stuff you can paddle into. Just to give you guys like an idea of the shoreline up there on Lake Superior, man. It's absolutely stunning.
Absolutely, and I get to do it like I did it today. We don't go to the Pictured Rocks Lake Shore. I also am on the big tour boats here, so I
Hmm.
spend most of my time. I probably spend about 300 days of the year on the water in one way, shape, or form. And so we do shipwreck tours, and that's in glass bottom boats.
That's cool.
Yeah, and seeing the smallmouth teamed up on the shipwrecks, man, if that doesn't get your blood boiling, I'm telling you,
So you get to do a lot of your scouting while you're at work.
absolutely.
That's cool, man. It's I know correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's Superior's claim the most shipwrecks out of all the Great Lakes, correct?
It has actually, fun fact, there's about 6,000 roughly total in the Great Lakes. Lake Superior has half of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we live on what they called the dangerous coast, and it's about 113 square mile area. We have 73 shipwrecks just in that area.
That's nuts.
Yep.
That's nuts. Well, it's most famously known for the old Edmund Fitzgerald, right?
Yes, sir.
You guys
Yep.
hate that song up there, don't you?
Actually, it's still one of my favorite songs. I love it.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. So, I mean, are you fishing some inland stuff too, mainly up there, or are you just mainly focusing on Superior?
Um, I do a lot of both.
Okay.
Not too many people come up to Lake Superior to fish it,
Hmm.
especially for smallmouth. I'm one of the only people that I know of out of a kayak that fishes the shoreline for about probably 100 miles on either side of me for
Okay.
smallmouth. So,
That's crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy. It's a very untouched fishery, so to speak. But
yeah,
with that, there's a lot of danger that goes in that's revolved around Lake Superior and stuff. Obviously, if you got 70 shipwrecks close to where you're fishing, that should give you a red flag right there, and we can get into that later. But
yeah.
I'm always curious, man. So like when you're out there chasing the smallmouth on Superior, like how deep are you fishing? Are you going pretty far out offshore? Are you staying pretty close to shore?
I usually stay fairly close to shore. Lake Superior open waters are absolutely zero joke.
Yeah.
Um, we had about today where even the forecasts were incorrect. They told us the weather would be all right. We took a tour group out, and we come around the island towards the main lake, and we just got pelted by lightning and a huge thunder, huge rain. We actually had to spin around and hightail it. The entire fleet of tour boats in this area spun around, and they were hauling butt to the shore. It was no joke.
I believe it, man. I've been up there in the winter, in the Marquette area, and seen like 15-foot waves, like 5 days in a row. Like that's a common thing. I was
Yeah, in November they really kick up. That's why they call them the November gales.
yeah.
And we'll see 20+ foot waves hitting the shoreline.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know there's a documentary out there on these guys that live up in that area, and they go out surfing in the winter, like because the waves get so big on Superior. It's
Oh
not.
yeah.
I've seen them out there. You're just like, what are those guys thinking? You know?
Oh yeah. Surfer Dan kind of always led that charge. He's kind of the legend up here. He's the guy you see in the photos with the beard full of ice on a surfboard.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Just goes to show you how gnarly it can get out there. You know, if a
Oh,
guy
absolutely.
can ride a wave, I mean, maybe that's something you can start up there, Matt. Riding waves on your NuCanoe.
I could certainly do that in the Pursuit, and hopefully here soon the Unlimited.
Well, you know, that's one interesting thing about it, and that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about because you know summer's starting to wind down. I know we're in August, but fall's coming up. Guys are going to be out fishing, especially guys in the north. You're going to get some colder water and things like that. And I think one of the most interesting facts that I know about Lake Superior is like the average water temps year round is, I think it's like 43 degrees, right?
Yeah, our average temp throughout the entire lake is 48 degrees, and that's
Okay.
average throughout the year, including shoreline temps. Um, we joke around that our swimming season lasts 2 days. It started yesterday and ends today. So yeah, it's certainly a cold lake. Very, very cold, very deep. It has it's one of the largest inland bodies of water in the world. And another quick fact, if you were to take all this water and dump it out on the US, it would fill the Grand Canyon, and then it'd leave the rest of the US in about just under 5 feet of water.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah, Superior is the deepest out of all 5 Great Lakes too. I think it's over
oh
a
yeah.
1,000 feet deep in the center or something.
Yeah, 1,333 feet deep.
No, thank you. I thought 100 feet was bad.
Let's go fishing, Brian.
Some deep sea fishing.
Yes,
out of Lake Superior. Well, I bring that up because, you know, I know recently, I think it was towards the beginning of the year, you were fishing with a friend of mine from my area, Dusty Yacker, and you were out on the kayak and ended up falling out, man. And that was a pretty scary experience, I know. And maybe talk about that and some of the precautions and things you do if that happens, especially in the colder water temps, man.
Yeah. So we were coming off the island. We spent a day fishing on the island. There's a phenomenal lake there. It is very, very hard to get to this lake. Fortunately, I know a few people and pulled a couple strings, and they helped us with the land travel. We launched off the south side of Grand Island, and we had a little bit of surf, 2 foot, nothing huge. Stuff that I'm used to a lot out here.
Sure.
I'm pretty comfortable in up to 6 foot waves out here. So we were heading back. I was overloaded, way overloaded. I had all the camping gear on, all my fishing gear, all my tournament gear. We turned into the channel, still about 2 foot waves, and within minutes we were in 4 to 6 footers. When the incident happened, because of all the weight on the kayak, I was sitting on the left gunnel, had my feet on the right. I had a hold of the seat, and I was leaning back with my head in the water to keep the kayak right. This happened within about 2 minutes, and I was about 200 yards from shore, and I was riding the waves this way just to keep everything straight and basically get my butt to shore and get all my gear unloaded. Dusty was hanging back. I was going to meet back out there with him with a light and load, and we were going to go into a sheltered bay to go fishing. So I was riding these waves, and I had a 6-footer come up. I went up on the crest, and about 3 feet behind that, with a very narrow trough, I got hit by another wave that was probably close to 8 foot. It flipped the kayak. I lost pretty much everything I had, all my tournament gear, thousands of dollars gone. I flipped the kayak, went to jump back in it, righted itself. As soon as I jumped back in, another 6-foot wave toppled it over on top of me.
Oh, jeez.
That happened twice. And then I finally said, okay, I'm tired of doing this. So I jumped up on the kayak. It was upside down, floating in the East Channel. Pulled my phone out, which was absolutely drenched. Made a phone call to my wife. Told her to get a hold of a couple of my buddies that work in the local law enforcement, and made a call for help. And about 15 minutes later, I heard a boat in the background. A person from the island saw me. They brought their motorboat out. I heard them. They pulled up. I slung one arm over the gunnel, then one leg. The guy yanked me in. And I'll tell you what, the air temperature was 39 degrees. The water temperature was 49 degrees. I was in the water for 15 minutes.
Holy smokes, man.
I did not have a dry suit on or a wetsuit. During that time of year, when the water temps are that cold, I will have one. Had all my safety gear. I'm very conscious about cold water and what it can do. Usually that type of water, when you go in, you will gasp for air. You have to keep a calm head. You know you're going over. Prepare for it. Don't get yourself into any more trouble than you already are. And get yourself up on top of a flotation device. Obviously, I had my life vest on. And keep that phone tethered to you. Most of the phones nowadays are water resistant.
Yeah.
Keep your whistle on you. You know, a lot of people might think that's kind of dorky, but I'll tell you what, if you don't have it in water like that, you need to.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Because I think, what do they say? You got in water temps like that, you basically have what, 10 to 15 minutes before hypothermia sets in.
About 5. So I was certainly hypothermic. I was probably stage 2. I'll tell you what, though, when I got into that boat, the guy wrapped his arms around me, and I never thought about this, but the temperature transfer from his body to mine was intense. I could feel the heat coming off of his body onto mine, and
Yeah, that's wild.
I was still fully clothed, soaking wet. We made her back to shore. They went out and recovered as much of my gear as they could, which wasn't much. I got up, grabbed a Mylar blanket. My buddy there met me on the shoreline and gave me a Mylar blanket. I grabbed that, ran up to the truck, drove it down to the ramp, severely shaking from the hypothermia, and sat in the truck for about 30 minutes and then drove home.
Jeez.
Luckily.
Yeah, man, that could have gone a million different ways.
It could have. It very well could have. And it
it's good that
wasn't Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, man, grateful you're still here to live and tell about it and
Yeah.
kind of share a life lesson to some folks out there, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't go out on Lake Superior haphazardly. I am very conscious about it. But I'll tell you that even though as much weather as you study, Weather Channel and different apps, it's not always correct. So that's why you need to have the safety precautions on you. You know, carry a Mylar blanket. They weigh like an ounce. Throw it in your vest,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Carry stuff to light a fire. Today in this storm, there were 3 kayakers out there. They made it to Grand Island. They'll be spending the night on Grand Island, but they had a fire going. So they were all good. They were all safe. We actually almost had to go out with our boat and make a rescue today.
Huh.
So
That's wild, man. Mother
yeah,
Nature is a mean lady.
it is. And my cousin and I nicknamed her the Ice Queen long ago, and that's always stuck with me, and that's always what I've called her. She
Yeah.
is the Ice Queen.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
pretty intense, pretty
Man,
intense.
you just never know. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you may fall out of your boat, and you just got to be as prepared as possible for that
Yeah.
situation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts.
Yep.
Nuts. Well, back to fishing, man.
Yeah.
What kind of baits are you throwing out there? A lot of goby patterns and things like that, or
um, we do have some goby in Lake Superior.
okay.
A decent amount of smelts and obviously crayfish. We're very hard bottom. There's not a lot of vegetation in Lake Superior, so they're eating stuff like smelt. There's some alewives out here. Of course, smaller trout fry
Yeah.
that come out of the rivers. Crayfish patterns, swim baits. When I'm out ledge fishing, usually drop shotting.
Okay.
So drop shotting or throwing a tube with a very heavy tube jig in it. Because when you're on the ledges, you could be anywhere from 20 or 30 feet ledge, and I've fished as deep as close to 90 feet. Probably about 87 feet was the deepest ledge I've fished here right by the house. So
You're catching smallmouth in 80 foot of water?
yeah, yep.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah,
Wild.
and the lake's so clear, you'll 40, 50, 60 feet, you'll hook into one and you'll see them flash that deep below because you'll drop it straight down your kayak.
Sure, sure,
You'll
sure, sure.
mark fish, drop it right on their head. And as soon as you hook it into one, there's 8 others following it all the way up to the
Way up.
surface. And you can't get more excited than seeing something like that. And you're reaching for another rod. As soon as you bring that fish in, you're ready to drop the other line. So, God, it's crazy. And they run all the way up on the shoreline, you know, obviously during spawn and early parts of the year and late parts of the year, they'll be up on the shore chasing whatever they can get to
Yeah.
fatten themselves up for the winter.
That's crazy, dude. 80 foot of water drop shotting.
Yep.
That's nuts. I've heard like 40, 45, but
Yep.
80 feet, that's just straight wild. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what you're doing this time of year then, going out on those deep ledges?
Yeah. This time of year, I'd be out on the ledges, a little more shallow of a ledge, probably more like 40 to 50 feet.
That's
So,
wild.
yeah.
What does it drop down to after 80 feet? 150?
Well, the channel that I crossed is 230 feet deep. Um, so that's the deepest water closest to shoreline, and it's probably about 300 yards off the shore.
That's
So,
wild.
yep,
Yeah, just steep banks, right? Up
yep.
there in that area.
And then you're in lake trout territory. So,
You chase those quite a bit too when you're out there, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, anything I can get while I'm out there. If I see something chasing my bait as I'm bringing it up, and it's usually like a Laker will chase it. I've had Lakers chase tubes. I've caught Lakers on tubes. Um, you'll get splake. Splake are a little bit more shallow. They're a cross between a Laker and a brook trout.
Yep.
And they're all over in there. And primarily, nobody really fishes the smallmouth because everybody's after the coho and the splake and the lake trout.
Yeah.
So
Interesting, man. That's kind of like Lake Michigan around the Chicago area, man. A lot of folks kind of ignore that smallmouth bite because it's just a huge salmon and trout fishery. Everybody's interested about going offshore and chasing those fish.
yeah, and it's a lot of fun to catch them, but they can keep catching them and leaving the smallmouth alone. I'm just fine with that.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you said you're basically catching those trout on the same baits you're just catching
Oh yeah.
smallmouth on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I caught a smallmouth and thrown right back out and had a Laker chase it in.
That's wild.
So right after the next cast. So
they're all playing with each other then, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're all in and around the area, especially one of the bays that I primarily fish. And I'll pull a smallmouth right off the fish wreck or off the shipwreck.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'd like to drop a GoPro on the deck of the shipwreck and be able to pull a smallmouth off the shipwreck at the same time. And that would be some awesome footage.
Killer footage. Heck yeah. Throw it down there with some like 80-pound braid on a rod so that way you could reel it up after you catch one.
No, I run like 6 to 8 pound fluoro.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about for the GoPro. The GoPro. The GoPro, man.
The GoPro. Well, the shipwreck I fished, it actually, and granted, a lot of people fish the shipwreck because they mark fish on it.
Sure.
And just a little back pedal where I work, we have dive boats and dive charters, and we have some dive masters that work with us. And they actually go down and pick the lures up off the shipwreck because we maintain it. We keep it clean.
That's cool.
We don't want a bunch of crap on the shipwreck. So even though it is really cool to pull a smallmouth off of there, I usually only pull one or two, and then I leave the shipwreck alone.
Yeah.
And I do it just for the fun of it,
Well, it's interesting too because it's a freshwater lake compared to saltwater. Those ships don't corrode and break down like a shipwreck does in the ocean, which is pretty interesting, man. I've seen I geek out on some of this stuff, so sorry guys and gals watching if I sound like a total nerd, but like I know like a lot of dive folks like fishing or like diving on that freshwater stuff because everything's like so preserved and pristine because in those depths, like A, you don't have the salt, and then B, there's something else that's in the water that I think like kind of protects those things from breaking down too.
Yeah, there's a few things going on there. We don't get a ton of traffic where I'm at. We don't have a huge marina here. We don't have any zebra mussels like the lower lakes, and that's
huge.
That's due to the water temp, and we have just a little bit different of a pH level in our water here.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep. So the zebra mussels just can't hang out. Now there are some in Lake Superior, but they're in the shallower ends, probably on the west side of the Keweenaw, towards Minnesota, and upper Wisconsin there.
Yeah.
So
that's super cool, man. Totally wild. I need to come up and catch a smallmouth off a shipwreck with you.
Come on, man. Bring your dry suit.
Yeah. No kidding, man. That's wild, man. I'm glad you made it through that one, dude, because that'd be scary. That would be super scary, dude.
And it was scary, and I came to terms with it, and it didn't slow me down. It only slowed me down on the fact that I needed a lot more gear because I just lost everything. But
Right.
I was back out there in 2 weeks. I went back out and faced the lake, and I'm like right back at it.
Nice. Nice, man. Very cool. Well, that's awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
uh, I'll open the floor to you, man. Any shout outs, thank yous, anything like that, man. It's all yours, and then we'll wrap it up with the question I always ask every guest at the end of the show, man.
All right. Well, first off, absolutely, my family, Steph and the kids, my parents, all my family are huge supporters of what I do. Obviously, all my fishing buddies. You make so many friends in this sport. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, we got a local trail up here, the Upper Peninsula Kayak Anglers. Johnny Pepin runs that. Obviously, NuCanoe, 101,000%. I talked to Matt Gibson, and we got us a NuCanoe Flint to give away at the Uper Championship for the top
Nice.
winner there. So, huge shout out to Matt, Blake, and everybody at NuCanoe for doing that. My personal sponsors, Whack 'em and Stack 'em Custom Baits are awesome. Last Cast Customs, he got me into a bunch of new gear after I lost my stuff. He actually pulled together with his local kayak trail, and they donated a ton of stuff and sent it up my way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm part of P Line, by George Brewing. So when you come up Fish Lake Superior, we'll take you over to the local brewery and we'll get you a beer.
Nice.
Yeah, and Davis Custom Rods, and hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody there, but I think I hit pretty much all of them. If I am, I greatly apologize. It's been a long, crazy week. So
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, we always wrap up the show. You got a Frontier 12. It's a rigged up tandem. You can go fishing for the day with anyone, dead or alive. Who's it going to be?
could I go hunting?
Yeah, I mean, we use our kayaks for hunting, so yeah, why not?
Fred Bear.
All right, all right. He's from Michigan, Michigan native, right? Bear archery.
Yep, I used to hunt on a property, Grouse Haven, right next door to it.
Okay,
So that was his property and Ted Nugent's property.
nice.
And it was in Rose City, Michigan, downstate. And we hunted on the property that bordered it. And the best hunting I've ever been on.
I believe it. I believe it. Good old Uncle Ted and Uncle Bear.
Yes, sir.
Two biggest names I know out of Michigan.
Yep, I would agree with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time tonight, brother, sharing your story, letting the good folks know about the opportunities that lie on up in the northern part of Michigan, and just the safety story, man, and the cold water. I mean, that's scary stuff, brother. I'm
Yeah,
glad that turned out all right, but.
yeah.
For all of those of you that tuned in, appreciate you guys. We're here every Tuesday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the West Coast. We got a lineup coming that I think you guys are going to be excited about, with cool stories just like Matt. So stay tuned for that. As always, boys and girls, we will see you next week. Till then, tight lines, smooth paddling.